The FujiCast is an independent Loading Zone production.
I don't want to be flippant about it, Kev, but, God, we've had enough dark humour over the last year. I think we can have a little bit more. I am one step closer to being able to lick the handrails at Reading Station. I said, I said this to Giles the other day, when I've got my second jab, Giles, I am licking the handrails at the local station. He said, what? What are you talking about? So it's jab. Jab's been, first jab has been done, Kev.
Thing is, these jabs, all as good as they are, you lick the rails at Reading Station and you'll get pregnant.
It's not corona you want to worry about if you lick the rails at Reading Station. The handrails, that would be not.
Did it?
It was all right, actually. Do you know, as I said on the other podcast, I don't want to be jingoistic about it, but I think we've done a blooming good job in the UK. It just felt like everybody was really, really happy for you. That they were kind of pushing, come this way, get it, go on, across the road, in you go. But it was, you wouldn't know of the show Logan's Run, or do you?
Well, I recognise the name. I wouldn't be able to tell you what it was about, though. Logan's
Run was an American, I think it was an American, I'm sure it was an American sci-fi thing. It was all about when you get to a certain age, you walk into a building on one side, and you never come out the other side. They tell you that you're going on to this amazing world and all the rest of it, but in actual fact, it's essentially the sausage factory, and it felt a bit like that, because we arrived in the car park and we all streamed in this one long stream into the centre, but I couldn't see anybody coming out the other side.
I've been to a bar in Amsterdam like that.
I think that's a different kind of place altogether, Kevin.
The FujiCast.
I'm not sure. Don't talk over the jingle. I'm not sure we should talk about that. Or do you? Did you want to expand on that?
I was going to say, did you have any? What do they call it? After Effects? No, that's Premiere Pro. No, what do they call it? Side effects.
After Effects. Yeah. Yes. Everything is dissolving now, nicely. No, not really. I had a very sore arm a couple of days ago, and I felt a bit woozy, a bit punch drunk directly afterwards, but no, not really. I mean, I think I've got off lightly. Some people have been laid out for a few days, haven't they?
Yeah. Anyway, all good. Well done.
All good. Happy about that. I feel like I've done my civic duty in saying, because I know not everybody believes in this, have your jab. It's the only way we can beat it.
Well, I had to register with a GP this week because otherwise I won't get mine. And that was fun because I had to try and remember the doctors I was at last and their address and everything. And suffice to say, I'm not really on the system. But I am now.
You are now, yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, welcome to the show. It is a photography show, funnily enough. You and your questions from our electronic mailbag, and of course also through the FujiCast private Facebook group that you're welcome to become a part of if you are not already. Send your questions in to click@fujicast.co.uk, or of course you can put them in the Facebook group. If you're not a Fujifilm shooter, as we say every week, do not worry, you're very welcome. Thank you to our friends who've supported us on Patreon, and we'll start with your names in a moment, actually. Kev's book of the week this week is...
It's called No System.
No System?
Vinka Pettersson.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a new one on me.
Do you know where? Have a guess. What? Stab in the dark. Oh no, hang on. Stab in the arm. Where do you think? Where do you think Vinka Pettersson lives?
It's got to be an Icelandic, Nordic, Scandic region, surely.
Pick a city. Any city.
Oh, Reykjavik.
No, Ramsgate.
Close to Oslo. Oh, right, okay. Ramsgate.
It's a great book, though.
Oh, right. I wasn't expecting you to say Ramsgate, though. And we have Matt Porteous today on the show, who you interviewed. Where do you think Matt Porteous comes from? Oh, no, don't answer. You know. But he comes from Jersey, but he's living at the moment in the Maldives.
Yeah.
That's not bad, is it?
Well, Jersey's not bad either.
No.
But then the Maldives is probably a little bit better.
A bit warmer, probably.
Yeah.
Although
nice chap.
He is swimming with sharks at the moment.
Yeah, all kinds of things. Yeah. He's saving the world.
Well, he's coming up later on, anyway. So we should mention the patrons. We've had a few new members.
We have indeed. Thank you so much for your kind support. As you know, although this week I didn't actually do it, so I feel really bad. But each Monday you do get a little addition in terms of a note with some links and videos and stuff that we've curated during the week. However, this week I didn't do it, as I said, because I'm really bad because I had a very bad back. But anyway, on to the names. We have, in no particular order, Katie Dockin. Thank you, Katie. Robert Birnbach. Dodd Vickers. I love that name, Dodd. Isn't that a cool name? Dodd Vickers. We have Alice Wasserberger. I'm saying V for the W because I'm assuming it's German or Austrian. Then we have Daniel Ellis. And then we have Nick Heisberg. And then we have Stephen Anker. So Katie, Robert, Dodd, Alice, Daniel, Nick, Stephen. Thank you so much for your support.
Welcome aboard. Actually, we should start with a bump to the front, shouldn't we? Just the one this week. It was from Johan Borhead, who sent me a message to disagree with me and be on your side, basically. I totally agree with Kev about the boxes. It's absolutely bonkers. What are you going to do with a box on a shelf? And how do you say anything about the condition of the camera with that? Equally stupid is shutter count that people obsess with. You can take 50 images with a camera, but record a massive amount of video and take it all over the world. What's the shutter count? 57. Oh, it must be in mint condition then. Not really.
I had hate mail about my opinion on boxes, of which I don't care. I still stand by my opinions. People who keep boxes for their cameras to resell. And it's not so much that, I'm not going through it again. It's not so much the people who keep them, it's the people who buy cameras only if they've got the boxes. They're the people. They should go into room 101. They should go into that room 101 in Logan's Creek or whatever you called it. And
Logan's Run. Go
through the door and then end up
factory.
Somewhere else.
Yeah. I still think keep the boxes because one day if you're selling it, one, it's environmentally friendly because you don't have to put it into another box. Second, for some people, yes, it is important to them. And third, blah.
It's those people.
Blah.
It's not the yous. It's not the yous who's keeping it because you know you might get a little bit more money in the future. It's the people who buy it in the future. The ones that I got no truck with. God, just don't understand it. I will never understand it.
Why?
Let's talk about something else. Makes me angry. Makes me angry.
Well, I tell you this much. I bought a Zorky 4 this week, which is an old Russian camera from the 60s, this one. And I was a little bit overjoyed to hear that it's in its box. That's like heritage.
For things that are vintage and stuff, yes, granted. But listen, if you go to, let's say you go to a flea market, what they call those things?
Flea market?
Yeah, I know what they call them over here, car boot sale.
Oh, right, okay.
You go to a car boot sale, right? And there is let's just say there's a clock, right? You need a new clock. In this car boot sale, there's a clock.
Yep.
Just a regular old clock. It's 10 quid.
Careful.
And then on the table next door, the same clock, but it's in the original box.
Oh, I'm having that.
11 quid.
I'm all over it.
You're going to pay £1 more.
Oh, you bet.
You're going to go home.
Yeah.
And you're going to take care of the box.
Yep.
That's it. I'm going to go and do another podcast. Someone else. Fed up with you. That's ridiculous.
I think I might be joking about the clock box, to be honest. I'm not quite sure that. I'm not quite sure that's eggs for eggs, apples for apples, whatever the expression is.
I'm going to get more hate mail now, I'm sure.
You probably will.
I stand by it.
I bought a clock. Dear Kevin, I bought a clock in a box. Right, should we go for a question?
Yeah, we should.
Do you want to go from the Facebook group?
I will go from the Facebook group. Yeah, why not? I'm going to scroll. And it's from Matt. Oh, hang on. You've already answered it on the Facebook group.
No, but that was one that came in. Well, he must have sent it twice then, because that was one that came into our Patreon. No.
Very different. The question is, Matt says, "Hi, Kevin, Neil. With you both shooting with BenQ calibrated monitors that display almost all of the Adobe RGB color gamut, do both of you set your Fujifilm cameras to shoot in Adobe RGB, or do you leave them in sRGB?" And then you answered on my thread.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, you said sRGB for me, which is right. Yeah. Same for me.
Oh, sorry, I answered because I was sat there that day thinking I should really sort of answer a few Facebook questions here, so I sort of ran through them. Sorry.
Sometimes you can't see which thread they're in. So sRGB for me too as well, just mostly because that's the digital world we live in. But you're right about the Adobe RGB, which is a wider color gamut. Yeah. But really, unless a printer asks you specifically for ARGB type images, if it's going digital, or if it's going to most kind of printers or album manufacturers, they're going to want sRGB.
Easy. James Joyce has written about the X Pro 3 shutter button. Hello, Kev. Question for you. With my X Pro 3, I typically half press to focus and full press to capture an image. However, occasionally I miss a photo because there seems to be a delay in the shutter, or I have to push down harder on the shutter. I also have an X100F, and the shutter button seems to be very responsive. So I'm wondering if there's a defect with my X Pro 3. Have you come across the problem before? I recently bought the camera on MPB, so hopefully... Oh, good for you. So hopefully I can use their warranty and send it back. If you have experience with the warranty services, I'd love to hear more about it. Well, I can tell you with the MPB warranty services, they're absolutely spot on. And I think they're, the way that they deal with their customers is really impressive. And I know that because I've had personal dealings with them through, obviously, my other podcast and having used them as a customer myself as well. So hopefully that should put your mind at rest. But what about his camera, Kev?
I don't know, really. That doesn't sound quite right to me. It's been a long time since I used my X Pro 3, but I always half depress also. I don't feel like I've ever thought this isn't quite right. So yeah, I would think, yeah, it doesn't sound quite right to me. Basically,
defective unit by the sound of it, maybe.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I wonder if it was a because MPB do second-hand stuff, don't it? So if it was a second-hand unit, then potentially it might be something to do with that. But yeah, get them to check it out. They'll check it out and sort it out for you.
They're very good. I mean, they do have camera professionals that generally work on the desk, and so if there is an issue, they'll pass it to somebody. There's always somebody that either uses a Nikon, or a Canon or a Fujifilm, Olympus, whatever. There's lots of specialists there, so it's probably worth them passing it across one of the specialists' eyes. Maybe. Thank you, James. We're firing through these, Kev. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all we have time for this week. We'll see you next week.
Yeah. Right, hold on. I need to find another one then.
Go on, then.
Whoa. This is from Rich Scaff. And he says, hello from China. Ooh, look at that. China. New to street, new to China. Loving combining the two. I bet. I would imagine that's an amazing place to go and shoot. I have an X Pro 3 that is amazing, and indeed amazing to learn on. Seriously, who cares about that screen, he says with a winky face. I have one frustrating gripe. The exposure wheel that turns, this has turned into the problems with the X Pro 3 show. Turns at the slightest touch. Is there any way to turn it off and assign that function elsewhere? I don't want to put tape on my beautiful camera. The exposure wheel presumably means exposure compensation dial. Again, that's not something that I feel like I've thought it's a problem. Have you got an X Pro 3, right?
No, I didn't have the X Pro 3. Sadly, I had the XP2.
No, the X Pro 2 was a bit loose around the exposure compensation, and the X Pro 3 it's more tactile, so it's more of a kind of click 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 type thing.
Is it?
Yeah, so it shouldn't really be that much of a problem. It's not something I can really remember, to be honest with you. Switching it off? No, I don't think you can. Of course, if you're shooting in manually, then actually, even now you can use that. No, I don't think you can. But stick some tape over it. I love sticking tape on my cameras to cover up all the logos, all the scratches.
I know.
Just tape it up. Nice big pink tape or something like that.
Kev, what can I do about sorry, while we're talking about buttons and things, the Q button on the X Pro 1 is driving me bonkers. I think it used to drive you bonkers as well, didn't it?
Yeah.
So easy to press. I tell you, you never ever use that camera with gloves. It's impossible.
I never use the Q button.
Nor do I, but you can't
use it on any of the cameras.
You can't help but press it.
Yeah. What's there a Q button on the X Pro 1?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, on the back. Yeah. Right, and it's always in that position. Just while I'm holding... Where is my X Pro 1? It's just around here. Hold on.
Oh, yeah, it was under the AFL button, wasn't it?
Yeah, right right underneath. And it's in that position where my thumb is across... And so there's a command wheel, which I do use sometimes. My thumb crosses that cue, and it just nudges it so often.
Yeah, stick some tape on it. Some thick tape. Get some thick tape on it.
Yeah.
Borrow some of Rich's.
Because I never use the cue button.
No, yeah, I don't. Although I do a little bit on the when I'm filming. But yes, the X Pro 1 did have that big Q button. I recall, and that Q button has moved around on pretty much every version of the cameras until they find the perfect place for it.
Yeah, look, nobody wants it. Stick it out the way, like in the box.
Well, actually, you say nobody wants it. It's probably the most used feature of the cameras, according to the usability testing.
Okay.
We just don't use it.
Two of us don't use it. We don't need it. Take it away. Put it somewhere else. Look, I know, underneath the window. I don't know. Anyway, first world problems. There's a couple of things here that came in that I thought was worth a quick mention. And we were going to mention this at the start. I said, what should we talk about today? We ended up talking about the jab. But I got an email the other day, Kev, that said, "Good afternoon, Neil. Hope you're well. I'd be grateful if you can send me any commission figures you have for 2020 so I can complete my files for the year. All the best from," I won't say the name, from a venue. And I was thinking, Did you know there was a war on last year? That nobody actually shot a wedding?
Yeah, I think that must be an automated accounting email. Has to be.
Yeah.
Has to be.
Yeah. Hi, Kev. Hi, Neil. I listen to your podcast every day, not to learn about photography. I'm honestly learning a lot of English with you guys. What beautiful accents you both have. You should definitely start a business around this. A show like English with Kev. Well, I was thinking, right.
Yeah, because your spoken word is much badder than mine.
No, but it wasn't about me. This is about you. You English speaker. Kev.
Oh, I see. Yes. Well, I do speak English.
You do, yeah.
Yeah.
Welsh with Kev. Do you speak Welsh?
No, not really. Bits, not stuff that can be done on air.
Okay, and the other one was from Nick Calendar, who sent in an interesting mail, said, "Hello, Neil. I noticed a peculiar effect this week." Stand by, Kev. I think you might have an answer to this. "It seems like more websites are using a white colour scheme, which can help with action goals, i.e. purchases. But for some reason, I find myself very eager to leave these websites. I was never sure why. Maybe it was in my head. But now, based on Gestalt principles, it seems that you're more likely to click on something that has a darker background than a whiter background."
Yeah, I don't know, I guess, maybe. But yeah, a white is...
What do you think about different backgrounds on websites, Kev?
Yeah, I prefer clean and nice. I like white. All of mine are white. Yeah. But with decals, I like symmetry and all that kind of stuff. So the flow of it is important to me. I've never really thought about that. I mean, I find it hard to believe that black is better. I've just typed it in now, the Gestalt principles, and I immediately fell. Gestalt psychology, Gestalism or configurationism, is a school of psychology that emerged in the early 20th century in Austria and Germany as a theory of perception that was a rejection to the basic principles of Wilhelm Wundt's and Edward Titchener's elementalist and structuralist psychology.
I'm so glad I did colouring in at school and didn't do any of the serious stuff.
Can you imagine that? That's one sentence as well. There wasn't even a comma.
Really?
There was one comma at the beginning. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the fact that the Google homepage and Amazon and I don't know. That's quite interesting, though. I like all of that stuff. I'm going to look into that a little bit more.
Send your thoughts on a postcard.
I'm going to turn all my websites black next week and see how many weddings I book.
I'm not sure that's a great idea, Kev.
Gestalt. I've bookmarked that. Gestalt psychology.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, that's what, when you're building websites, that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right,
stuff.
Your question, Kev.
Right, I have a question from Daniel Johnson, and this is specifically to me because he says, "I want to hear about your martial arts history and if it's benefited you in your photography. I can assume that you have trained some in Japan on your trips and perhaps with some Fuji gentlemen. Being a judo practitioner must have given you a little bit easier way to understand and navigate Japanese culture. I have myself a martial arts background, and I suspect many other Fujicasters do too, and it's a very interesting subject." Yeah, well, it is an interesting subject, actually, because, although I've been to Japan a few times, I've never done judo there, mostly because all of the times that I went, I was not doing it at the time. But I have said to myself, if the opportunity ever arises again to go to Japan, I will definitely do my best to try and get a session out there. I did once, a long, long time ago, when I was young. I was in the Welsh judo squad, and they brought over a guy called Yushiro Yamashita, and he was the world champion heavyweight judo, Olympic champion. He was the guy that fought his Olympic, I think it was the LA Olympics. He fought the final with a broken foot. Anyway, he was absolutely humongous. And they lined us all up, all 35 of us. And one after the other, we all ran at him to try and do something. And every single one of us, he just swatted us off like a fly. It was quite incredible. But yeah, in terms of fitness, no, I haven't. Since March last year, we've had 4 sessions at judo, which were socially distanced. So you can imagine how that went. No touching, no, we used belts strapped together as tension leads, things like that. So we haven't done any training judo-wise, and it is something that I enjoy doing. It is something that I feel like when any kind of fitness, any exercise does help you when you're shooting weddings, for sure.
Yeah.
How many times have we? Well, I'm not speaking for you, but I'm speaking for myself. How many times have I caught myself in those big mirrors they have in wedding reception halls? Everybody sat down having their lovely meals, and all the women look beautiful and all the men look super slim, and they've all got nice aftershave on and stuff. And then I waddle past like Attila the Hun walking by with a badly fitting suit and
gout.
Gout. And I remember one wedding the year before. It was a September wedding, I think, or October, and I had a massive black eye from judo.
Oh yeah,
I got beaten up by a girl, and not that that's a negative thing. She was just brilliant.
She really gave you a proper pasting, didn't she?
Gave me a proper black eye.
I know.
No, so yeah, and you're right though, Daniel, about the Japanese culture thing, because there was an element of that I did kind of understand when I was there. So I knew that typically you would bow when you were entering like a room and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, good question.
Yeah. Here's one from Mohammed Parani, who says, "Hello guys, hope all is well. Just a quick 2-part question for Neil, or Kev as well, if you can answer. While taking pictures," now Kev can actually, because you do talk about audio when you do your street courses, which hopefully are coming back soon. Oh, we must talk about before we go into the interview in a moment, let's talk about your new presets. While taking pictures, I want to get an audio recorder to capture the ambience and conversations of the family when we go on trips or just to the park, so that when there is something cute that my 4-year-old says, it can be incorporated into photo slideshows. So what kind of device can I use? What would you recommend? I've heard Tascam, Zoom, and your podcast a few times, but for my purposes, what would be suitable? I don't want to add external mics or anything too fancy, just something I can put in my pocket or in the side of the camera bag. Also, is there a way to load the audio files into a software, and it can allow me to find locations via timestamps of certain moments, provided I was to synchronize the time on both the camera and audio recorder? Thanks again for the excellent podcast. And by the way, I've been listening since episode 2. Well, what was the matter with 1? Why does anybody start at 2? Wouldn't you feel inclined to think, I wonder what happened at 1?
Maybe he's got every edition of No, That's What I Call Music, apart from number 1.
Number 1. That's it. But you wouldn't start at 2, would you, Kev? You'd think, what did I miss? Possibly, what have I missed since...
I don't know if you can...
Did we not publish...
You can get it on our website, but I'm not sure on Apple it drops off after a period of time, doesn't it?
Does number 1... Is number 1 not there?
I don't think you can go right way back to the beginning, no.
Well, so it starts at 2?
Well, I'm not sure it starts at 2, but I'm sure it doesn't start at 1. But you can always go to the FujiCast website. They're all on there.
No, it will be available, because I clicked the button that says make them all available.
Oh, okay.
So you just started at 2. Did Mohammed Parani from Markham in Canada. He said, I bought my first Fujifilm camera, the X-T2. Oh, maybe that's why he started at 2. And thanks to the simpler strap that I won in the during the war days. Yes, that does seem a long time ago now. Audio recorder straight away, then I can answer that with, I still think that I think the H1 is a terrific recorder. I think it's H1N now, isn't it? Because it's just really simple. Big red button on the front. Press it, boom, record, away you go. It's got what's called an XY recording pattern on it. It's pretty good if you. I mean, I've used it certainly for I suppose baby shoot cute moments when I've popped it on the pillow and you can hear them snoring. It's good enough to pick that up. You can also use it for small interviews. It's not ideal for that. It's not really made for it, but you can. Great for Atmos sound. And yep, in your pocket, no probs at all. I don't know much about the Tascams, I'm afraid. I've never used them, so there must be an alternative to that one. But the Zoom. You can have, you can have time code on recorders. Not on that Zoom model. No, you can't. Usually timestamps go on slightly more expensive models. As for actually synchronizing it with camera and audio recorder, if you're taking stills, I'm not sure. Do you think that's possible, Kev? I don't think
I don't know. It's really interesting. I was thinking that when you read the question out.
You can do it with video, but certainly not with the Zoom one. But not with... can you...
I think you probably...
I suppose you could put them into time order in your file structure. Yes, you could do that.
When you record audio, I suppose the question is, when you start recording audio, you can timestamp audio to start at 00000.
Yes.
Yeah. But can you stamp it to start at the current time and seconds that you're physically, now it's...
Yeah, but now you're talking about machines that the time code stuff that you would use if you've got a field recorder. Yes, you can. And then you can also start to look at GPS and all those kind of things to tie in your recordings with your stills, I guess, and video. Software-wise, I found an interesting something, a Google app that we'll leave a link for, Kev. And machine-wise, we are looking at some of the field recorders that are available, but they're much more expensive machines.
I bet you. Could you not do that
beast.
on one of these, the little ones?
No,
you can only start at 0.
Well, they're not throwing out EXIF data like that. No.
But if you've got,
correct me if I'm wrong. Anybody into audio, but I don't know. Not on these. No, you'd need something like a field recorder that can do actual, time coding.
Yeah, I was just thinking more along the lines of, let's just say we started recording now and it's 9 a.m. in the morning. So you set your recorder to 9 a.m. Your camera is set to 9 a.m. You take 20 pictures over the next hour. You bring your audio into Premiere Pro or something like that. You know that 9 a.m. is the beginning. You then look at the EXIF data of the images, and you can just drag the images very quickly to the time 9:06, 9:11.
That's still slightly more manual process, though, isn't it?
Oh yeah. It's manual,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's probably what I would be thinking in my head.
Well, I suppose if you want to do it manually, yes, but I don't think there's anything that will automatically make your life much, much easier all of a sudden. No.
But there's an invention out there for somebody.
Yeah.
Look at that.
See a need, fill a need. What film was that? Robots, wasn't it? Was it Robots? See a need, fill a need.
No idea.
Okay. Right, your presets, Kev, just before we hear from Matt. Now, you've been working hard at these. Now, the last set during lockdown were impressive, but these are impressiver so.
Yeah, so these ones I've worked my very large, substantial bum off on.
Right.
So they're not an upgrade on the previous ones as such. They're kind of different, if you like. So there's a lot more of them. 40 plus film simulations. They're all profile based, so they're proper, based on proper lookup table profiles rather than just a bunch of sliders that have been dragged around a bit. There's a whole load of utilities in there. It's a whole system, and I'm very proud of it, I have to say. So yeah, it's available now. We're on f16.click and kevinmunningsworkshops.co.uk.
Well, give us an example of some of the presets, some of the names, some of the styles.
Well, so we have I've some of them have got my kind of take on the things that I like to build. So I've got things like 50s, there's Astia ones, there's ones I've called Film Portrait Cool, there's a Golden 50s, a Kodachrome style, one I've called Motion Picture, there's a one called Summer Film, Superior Style, Teal and Orange, and then Black and Whites. We've got Delta 800s, we've got what I call Simple Monochrome, which is my base standard monochrome look. We've got FP4 styles, and we've got Neopan, Acros. We've got Mullins Gold in the mix there.
Mullins Gold.
Slightly warmed up.
Yeah.
We've got T-Max Tri-X styles, and then there's a little bonus. So the idea is that you pick your film, and then you can add, via the utilities, you can add or remove grain and density and tones and vignettes and all that kind of stuff. But I've also thrown in, I've called them legends of film, which are kind of like some of my favorite emulations of other people's styles, I suppose, rather than their pictures. So we've got Jane Bown, we've got Anton Corbijn, we've got Eggleston, Meyerowitz, Padilla, and Parr thrown in the mix as well. Yeah, so there's a whole load, and I'm very happy with it. Yeah. And I am very, very grateful for the people who purchased last year. Yeah. Now it's time to put your hands in your pockets again, people.
Who says Kev should give a discount?
Yeah, I'll give you a discount. Of course I will. FujiCast is your discount code. And I'm going to be very generous and give you 10% off.
Oh, wow.
Only
you said 5 when we started this. You said, blimey, he's just gone up 5. That's the power of beer during a show.
That's right. I'm drinking Thatcher's Rosé as well. 10%. But it's going to be for 2 weeks.
2 weeks
only. Yes.
Oh, wow. Get
2 weeks.
Yeah, okay. Would it have been 5%? Would have been, what, 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
Yeah, well, no, if I'd left it at 5%, I would just put the price up.
Would you? Okay.
So the actual pack is called Essential Film 2021.
And never forget, Kev needs the money because he has to feed that horse of his. It still doesn't sound well, I'm afraid. Right, Matt Polyesey. Matt Polyesey, I've got to say, is one of the nicest sounding blokes, I think, in the photography industry.
Yeah.
You talk at one stage, I don't want to do a spoiler, but you talk at one stage about positivity. And I noted down a couple of things here. I don't always note things down, but I actually got my notebook out and thought, be like Matt. Doesn't watch the news, surrounds himself only with positivity, doesn't have anybody that's not positive friends. Yeah, he sounds like the perfect bloke, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's a really nice guy. Really nice guy. And of course, you'll hear in the interviews the backgrounds and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, what a life.
Well,
when I grow up, I want to be Matt.
Well, you did send me that earlier during the week, and I thought, what's he talking about? Then I heard the interview, and now I understand entirely. This is Matt Polyesey.
There's a lovely quote on your website which says, "Life is a game, play it. Life is a challenge, meet it. Life is an opportunity, capture it." And I think when I look at your work and when other people look at your work, that probably sums up your attitude to life, I guess. Tell us about your photography. How did you get into photography? What happened?
I love that you picked up that quote. I mean, yeah, I absolutely love that. That's what life's all about, isn't it? Get out there, capture it, tell new stories. But I started out my photography journey at a young age. I always took a big interest in photography. It was looking at my parents' photo albums. It was just, they went on adventures, and I was really taken in by that. And I think I first picked up I had my first little yellow underwater Minolta camera when I was around 8, and that just followed me everywhere. And I would just be taking pictures of just my life. And it was what I was doing. At 8 years old, I wasn't focused on anything, but more kind of going into my teenage years, I was really just documenting life and the life that I was living. I was down the beach on the weekends, and I was hanging out with my friends. I started traveling when I was around 16, and I would just document the people that I met, the places that I visited, and just really bringing together and really just using photography as a voice. That was my voice. I wasn't a very chatty kid when I was younger. I was just really used my photography to kind of connect and really kind of show people how I saw the world, even though I wasn't necessarily showing people the pictures, but I think I was just capturing it just for myself, just for my own journey, for my own kind of my own diary entry of life.
Now, you're based in Jersey, right? But you're not there now.
No, at the moment I'm on an island called Fumala in the southern Maldives. We managed to just get out of Jersey. We've been, as everyone else, been in lockdown, but Jersey it's been great. It's been great over the last few months. It's been, we've been pretty free to roam, and an opportunity came up to come out to Fumala, this island in the southern Maldives, to document a really amazing ocean story. around conservation, shark diving, and sustainable travel. So that's why I'm here now. But yeah, originally I'm from Jersey. I've been in Jersey my whole life. Jersey is an amazing home. I've been brought up in island life, island style, and I always find myself on islands around the world telling different stories. And it gives you something living on an island. I've always had people asking me, why don't you move to London? Why don't you come to the city? Why don't you do this? And I'm like, no, I love living on my island. I get something, I travel around the world. I work all around the world, and it's great to come back to Jersey and just landing, looking down at the beach, and getting back and going and hanging out with my friends at the beach where we hang out, and just things haven't changed. Everyone's left, but everybody comes back because it's a beautiful place, and I'm very fortunate to live there, and it's where my work stemmed from. Down on the sand dunes, capturing people, in the woods, and to going free diving on the north coast. It's where I learned all my skills, just to be able to take them further afield.
If somebody typed your name into Google, probably the first thing that's going to come up is the Prince William, Catherine family pictures. And perhaps that's something that is something very much to be proud of. But I don't know whether I don't want to pigeonhole you as kind of a royal photographer or the royal photographer. But I think it's really important that we talk about that. And those pictures are beautiful. They're so natural, and they're so different to what you would generally expect from kind of traditional royal photos. And I think Catherine herself, being a photographer, probably levitated towards somebody like you, because your wedding photos specifically as well are very natural. How did that all pan out, and how did that relationship grow, and what happened there?
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. It's really nice of you to say. And I think in all my work, I very much look for that natural look. I'm never posing anyone if it's at a wedding or a portrait shoot. I try and keep it as natural as I can. And as with Catherine's work, when you see her work and the way that she captures her family, it's very similar in the way we work. It's very similar in the tones and the look and feel of the images. I've been incredibly fortunate to work with a family over the last few years, and just capturing very intimate moments of the family, just relaxed family portraits, as with every other family portrait that I do. It's just being there. It's being present, taking everything in, and never directing or never asking to do anything. It's just, things can happen naturally. Things occur naturally when everybody's relaxed and everybody's in a good mood. And that's how I've been working with them for the last few years. And it's how I work with every family, every wedding, every portrait shoot that I kind of enter, really is capturing that natural side of people and trying to really bring their true side across. And I think with the images that I've captured with the family, it really is a very relaxed, wonderful family. Catherine, is such an amazing mom, and William's such an amazing dad, and it's just great to see them just interacting with the children. So yeah, I've been very fortunate over the last few years to be doing this.
Yeah, and I think when you look at those pictures, you do get a sense of family ties and family values, which is, like I said earlier, it's not something you normally associate with kind of traditional royal photography. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think it gives an insight into their personalities through the photography, which is great. That's the sign of a brilliant photographer in my mind. What happened? Did you just one day wake up and did somebody ring you and say, hey, it's Prince William here, can you come and take some pictures? Or, did it come through an agency or something? Don't tell us your secrets, but it must have been an amazing thing to think, oh, hang on, that's quite a client to have.
Yeah, no, I mean, it just came as with everything in life, it comes with time, connections, and it's being in the right place at the right time, or capturing you capture somebody one day and you never know who they're going to be with or who they're going to connect with. And a few years down the line, if you've been nice to everybody along the way, and you've got on with everybody, and you've taken interest in everybody, and you've produced good work along the way, we all know this as photographers. It takes time, and that's how it happened. It was organic. It happened organically over a long period of time, just with a few different connections. And I just had an email one day, and it went from there.
It's really, you mentioned there, these things take time, and as photographers, and I do feel like these days that some people, they don't want to put the time and effort and the graft into the craft and the business side of things. They just want the rewards so quickly. Not everybody, of course, but when I explore your work and I explore your multitudes of websites and the Instagram channel and everything, it's very easy to see that you are much more than just a person photographer. I think, especially when I look at the ocean stuff, which hopefully we can chat about next, it's an outlet perhaps for humanity. You're doing stuff that is, of course, it's paying the bills, but also there's a strong message here. And if anybody looks at your Instagram feed right now, they will see these incredible, and I mean incredible, underwater shots of the creatures, of selfies of yourself, your friends diving. I mean, it's incredible, absolutely incredible. So we move from the royal photography element of things. We'll sidestep weddings right now because everybody knows that that's just not really happening at the moment. And you find yourself in the Maldives. You're diving with sharks. What's happening there? How's that working out for you?
Over the last 5 years, I have been dedicating my free time, my time outside of weddings and commercial works, and my winters to documenting stories around positive change. And it first started with Ocean Culture Life, which I founded in Hawaii in 2015. And I was really drawn. I went to Hawaii. It was an El Nino season. It means there's a season where there's going to be a lot of big waves. And I was just drawn because I love the ocean and I've always wanted to get in big waves with my camera and just capture that beauty and that power of the ocean. But the first thing that I was drawn to when I got there was actually not the surfers and the professional surfers, but it's more actually the lifeguards, because the waves were massive the first day I was there. And I looked at it and I just turned to the lifeguard tower and I walked up to them and said, can you give me some information what I should be doing? And they said, don't go in today because you're going to die. Come back and see us tomorrow morning and we'll tell you if you can go in. And that's it. So that's what happened. I went to see them the next day. They just said, yeah, go in today, Matt. You'll be fine. We'll look out for you. We're going to keep an eye on you. And that's what they did. And so I just started taking interest in the lifeguards. And the lifeguards are there to protect the surfers and they're there to protect the swimmers and they're there to save people's lives. And then the lifeguards are also working as shark conservationists. So then I would spend time with the lifeguards and the shark conservationists. And then I just started looking around and there's this whole community and culture that is there with the free divers and the people that clean up the plastics and the people that are using the ocean for mental health issues. And there are all these stories that need to be told. And my only other language is photography. So I thought I want to set up a dedicated website, which is Ocean Culture Life, just to be able to go and document these people, these guardians of the ocean, the people that are looking after the planet, its people and the creatures of the planet, and being able to just connect them and connect these stories. So for the last 5 years, we've been working on that. We've got a team, we've got an incredible community of ocean storytellers all around the world now, some of the most well-known names in the industry. And that's what I'm doing here at the moment in Formula in the Maldives is we're connected with an ocean storyteller called John O'Allen, and he's come down here and he's just seen the possibilities that are here, but he also understands the issues that are happening in the island. So it's around. So we're documenting the shark diving, which is, we were in the water this morning with 7 tiger sharks swimming around us, and that's kind of on a daily. That's been happening daily. And they're literally within a foot of me this morning, just cruising past. But they're the most beautiful creatures I've ever been around. And this island isn't too well known about at the moment. And there's a certain core group of people that will come down, and maybe there are boats that come through. But if it's not managed properly now, it will just become overrun. There'll be too many divers in the water. There are already people doing silly things at the moment. But if it's not documented right now and it's put out in the right way, so we're setting up a foundation here to make sure there's an ocean code of conduct. And when people come here, then the money goes back into the community, and it helps with the plastic cleanups. It makes sure that there's less plastic coming into the island. It helps with the fishermen. And so there's a whole big story. It's not just about the underwater pictures with the sharks. There's everything around it. So it's a storytelling element. It's the thing that we have the gift to be able to connect with people and connect with locals and hear their story. And they're so grateful that we take interest in them, and we've been invited into the houses. We're invited in for lunch today, and every day we're always invited into people's houses. And as storytellers, we have that ability to be able to meet people, capture the story, tell their story in the right way, in the positive way that can really make a difference. Without storytelling, they can't. They're not going to be heard in the right way. There's going to be there might be a different story that's told, like a negative story that's told around a certain community or a certain country, but there's always positive stories there. There are always positive stories to tell, and that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing with Ocean Culture Life and documenting changemakers.
Through your lens, we see so much from the depths of the oceans, peek into the royal family, a landfill site in India, the skies above with the drone work, all that kind of stuff. But it is always positive. It's always the positivity that comes out of it. And I think, I haven't been able to find any images that make me not think that's a good story ultimately. Maybe based on the foundations, maybe on negativity in terms of the circumstance, but you're showing and finding the positivity out of it all. Is that something that you do purposefully? Is that part of your remit? I think it's brilliant anyway.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that, Kevin. Thank you. And I guess it's just been my storytelling. I've always been interested in the positive story. I'm always, I love to surround myself with positive people. I love to connect with new people and find new stories. So my work is very much about about positivity. I've been a wedding photographer for 10 years. It's a positive thing to be around very happy people. But I've always looked at the positive in life. I don't watch the news. I won't surround myself with negative people. I will just surround myself with good people. I will go to beautiful places. When you talk about India, we've been working around child labor in India for the last few years as well, and human trafficking. Now, you could easily go there and you can see the negative, and there's a lot of negative that's happening in these countries, but the story that comes from it is a positive. It's the charities that are going in and helping these children and getting them through schooling and giving them a positive life. That's the story that I'm interested in. You see the negative in this, and there's so much negative in this world, and people talk about negativity all the time. But if you're constantly searching for positive, I think it can only be a good thing, and you're only going to meet positive people as well.
You mentioned then again weddings, and like I said, weddings are a bit tricky right now, but is that still something that you will be focusing on when the world starts spinning again properly?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love weddings. I'm fortunate I get to go to some beautiful places and photograph some amazing people. And if you look at my social feed, you won't see any wedding pictures. I won't see any wedding pictures on my social feed. We've got a dedicated wedding social platform, but I talk about my personal work because it is my life's journey. This is my journey. This is the way I see the world. And I think a lot of my clients are attracted to my work because of my personal work. So they know that I love the ocean. They know that I tell these stories around the world. So, a lot of time it'll be the husbands that will see the work, and you might see a lot of different wedding photographers, and like, oh, okay, that guy goes diving. He likes to go diving he goes in the ocean. But so I think I have a certain kind of wedding client, and they're always amazing. Like my wedding clients are amazing, and I get to go to amazing places. I get to go to beautiful places, and weddings are so different now. It's not a typical kind of wedding that you would, traditionally have gone to. And when I first started out 10 years ago, 12 years ago, whenever it was, I think weddings are very different now. And even coming out of COVID, I think there's going to be a much bigger reason to have smaller weddings. And, we know that a small intimate wedding between 35 and 70 people is such an intimate time, whether it's on a day or over a whole weekend, that people can have that whole experience now. It's not just about the day, it's about the whole experience. And as photographers, that's what we're capturing. We want to capture that experience. We want to capture that first light and all these little bits that were missed. And if you're doing that in a gorgeous place somewhere in the world, or in the countryside in the UK, or on the beach in Jersey, it's really special.
Yeah. Well, fingers crossed they'll all be back soon enough for everybody. Now, part of your growing up in terms of the business side of things, you set up Studio M. Is it a collaboration maybe of lots of different people. And does this umbrella of Studio M, encapsulate everything else, the ocean work and all of the other work that you're doing?
Yeah, Studio M's kind of, it's more kind of the commercial side of our business. So it's more working with the brands and working with businesses. And in Jersey, we've got a lot of corporate work. And but again, over the last few years, we've been focused a lot more towards purpose-driven storytelling and working with brands that are making a difference. So we're trying to promote ourselves as much as we can to be telling a new story, telling a positive story from the brand's point of view and from the business point of view. So that's the way the whole kind of side of that business is going. Really, it's not aligned with Ocean Culture Life, because that's a different business. Really, it's actually being set up as a charity. It's a charity. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the Studio M it's a community. There's photographers in there. There are filmmakers. We are reaching out to different creatives in different fields as well. So yeah, it was founded through commercial work, and now we're going down the purpose-driven storytelling route.
Tomorrow you have a choice. You can either shoot a glorious wedding in the Tuscan hills, or you can go shark diving with your camera. Where would you go?
That's a good question. I mean, my happiest place is under the water with a camera. So if that answers your question, I need to go to the Tuscan Hills to photograph the wedding, so I can actually afford to come and photograph the sharks as well.
Yeah,
so that's also, I think, I think about that. There's a commercial side that also pays for our personal work here as well. You have to spend enough money on the personal work before it actually starts paying back. So
yeah, that's good. That's an honest answer as well, and that's the truth of it for sure. Definitely. Thinking back to the underwater stuff, what kind of equipment are you using? The images, and I really encourage everybody to go to your Instagram feed, because the images are just insane. They're just amazing. And how are you, what's your kind of go-to equipment for the underwater stuff specifically?
Yeah, so underwater, for the last few years, I've gone from surf housings to now I've got top of the range water housing. So I'm using a Nauticam water housing. I've got a Canon 5D Mark IV in there. I've been a Fuji shooter for the last 4 years on above the water, but to get my GFX underwater was going to cost me £12,000 for a water housing, and it was just crazy. It just wasn't going to happen. So I've really been looking. I'd love to get. And I know the new Fuji's out, and there's 100 megapixels. If I could be shooting with a medium format underwater, that's still my dream. It just hasn't been a possibility. So water housings are expensive. They're kind of in the $5,500-6,000 range just for the water housing, and then you've got the cameras. So I'm down there. I've got my Canon. I'm shooting with a 16 to 35 lens. It gives me that ability just to focus in and onto my images. Not on land, I always use prime lenses, but under the water I'm using a 16 to 35, and that's my go-to lens underwater. And I'm actually putting together an ocean photography course whilst I'm here with my friend Jono, because we've had a bit of free time. So we're doing a course following on from the photography course that I've done over the last few months. So
will that be a kind of online learning type, video on demand type thing, or will it be in person? People have to fly out to the Maldives.
Yeah, it will be. There were going to be expeditions on here eventually, or probably this time next year. But for now, it's going to be a pretty kind of easy kind of introduction to photography underwater, and talking just everything from a GoPro. You go and get yourself a GoPro, and you can get the most incredible images. I've been filming the whole time with the GoPro on top of my camera. So I go down my housing, and then I've got a GoPro on top, so I'm filming and photographing at the same time. And the 4K quality you're getting from a GoPro 10 meters underwater is it's kind of matches any other camera. It's, we find it easier to edit. So we're using that underwater. The images that you can get, and you put an easy edit on it, and you can get some beautiful images from a GoPro as well. And also just using, you can go down with the phone. You can go down with your phone, put a housing on the phone, and you can get some great images. And the same way with photography, being underwater, it's all about the light. It's understanding where the light's coming from. Being in clear water like we're in right now is, we're gifted with the clarity that we have. But getting in the water, and when I'm back home, getting in the water, you've got to find, look for the good days, look for the good light, and know where your subject's going to be and the kind of style of images you're looking for. So it's not about the really expensive equipment. It's just really about just understanding your light and being comfortable in the water. That's the main thing, is being comfortable before you get in the water, and make sure that you understand the area that you're in, and you understand the currents, and you're fully equipped, and you're going in with a friend, and it's all these things that we talk about really in the course as well.
With all of the issues with plastic and things like that in the world, and that nearly always lends itself to the problems in the seas. Is that a focal point? Is that something that's concerning you and your photography, and of course videography as well, because that's part of it? Yeah,
absolutely. For the last 2 years, I've been working in the Maldives for a project called Namuna Bar, and it's part of the Suniva Fuji brand. And they've been coming up with ways to eradicate single-use plastic over the last 10 years, probably longer actually. They banned plastic straws back in the 90s because of Eva's forward-thinking ideas of how to clean up the ocean and protect the ocean. So they've been running these projects. So I've been working alongside, documenting the projects and the work that they're doing of the waste to wealth management that they're doing. So recycling plastic, recycling tins, recycling coconuts, and they're just everything they can to stop the waste going into the ocean. So also a lot of my time in the Maldives is spent on an island called Telefushi, which if you look that up, it's a huge island that's just made out of trash because there hasn't been anywhere else to put the trash over the last few years. So a lot of my work has been on Trash Island and working in and around the island, understanding the best ways that they can manage their waste issues. And last year I actually came out here with NBC News and the Today Show to do a whole report on it. So it's a big thing. It's a big part of the story. We can see when people talk about the Maldives, you think about beautiful villas on 5-star hotels, but there's so much more to it than that. The Maldives are, it's the same as any Asian group of islands that you visit. Their local communities. They have certain issues that are happening on the island, and most of them at the moment are based around waste. How do you get rid of waste on an island that might only be a mile long or few hundred meters long? There has to be a way to deal with it. And when there's no kind of accessible drinking water, it's really coming down to delivering plastic. On the island that we're on at the moment, there's 200,000 plastic bottles a month, I think, being delivered here. When the way to deal with that is having filtration systems in each house, and also bottle bay. So that's part of the story that we're telling here. So it's a big story. It's a really big thing. In 20 years ago, they didn't have this issue. They didn't have plastic. So they used to take their rubbish down to the beach and just set fire to it. It was normal. But if you're taking the rubbish down to the beach now and it's mixed with plastic, it's really bad for the local community. So it's been a really big story. It's been a really big kind of focus for my storytelling over the last few years, because it's all based around the ocean. There's a much bigger story.
I always ask people towards the end of these interviews one question, and that would be, what would you say to an 18-year-old Matt? If an 18-year-old version of you came and sat by you now and said, what should I do with my life today? What would you say, do you think?
Trust your instincts, and anything you're passionate about in life, just go for it. But just go for it at 100%, because if you love something, if there's something that makes you wake up every day, doesn't have to be photography, whatever you're most invested in, whatever you love the most in life, that can be your business. This is what you should invest all of your time and all of your effort into, because one day you can turn that into a business. One day, that will make you want to wake up every day and want to go to work. You know, for me, it was storytelling, and I think it's just been invested interest into it because I'm so passionate about it. I'm so passionate about the storytelling. So for telling my 18-year-old self, it would have been also to have more confidence when I was 18. I didn't have a lot of confidence when I was 18, and I wish I'd like tell myself, you've got the confidence, you can do this, just go for it. You don't need to wait. You don't need to wait on anybody else. Don't rely on other people. Don't rely on other people to help you, because you've got to help yourself. I think that would be a really good thing. You know, we got a lot of people always asking us if they can come and assist with us, or they want to come and work with us. But the people that stand out are the people that are doing it themselves, and they've got out and they have a camera and they're telling their own story and they're building their own profile. Because the only way to really do anything is to do it on your own. You can't rely on other people. You have to do it on your own, and you have to think for yourself and get out there and do it, and push yourself through your fears that you have. Don't let your fears hold you back. Just push yourself through a fear, because if you push yourself through small fears every day, then you'll overcome so much. And the world is a magical place if you can learn to overcome fears and push yourself through it.
Thanks to Matt Polyesey. And of course, you will have links to follow to his work in the show notes today at FujiCast.co.uk. Also, after this show on my solo podcast, Photography Daily, we have a packed week heading toward Easter weekend, so download these this week to take you through to the holiday, and of course to next week's FujiCast. Today there's a very powerful show in terms of subject matter about two things. First of all, Mark Wilson is a supremely talented commercial photographer, but he's equally a real knowledge base when it comes to making his personal projects that he creates into books. And if you've thought of crowd-funded style projects, I know you'll want to hear about his latest Kickstarter project. It's called A Wounded Landscape, in which he talks to and photographs 22 people or shares individual stories about those who survived or were murdered in the Holocaust. Now, it's unlike anything I've seen of this story. There are portraits, there are places, there are items, but none of it is gratuitous or designed to shock. It's just the most incredible take on this.
One of the stories is my own family, but even taking that away, I mean, I can't take it away from there, because I wouldn't be the same, wouldn't be the person I am, and I wouldn't have made the work in the same way. But it's each of the 22 stories has deeply affected me and will stay with me forever.
Then today also I talk with Thomas Kelly, who's a picture desk editor, but equally he is the television producer behind Shooting the Darkness, the incredibly potent story about the photographers of Northern Ireland during the Troubles, who one moment were photographing local sport, gymkhanas, the Czech presentations, that kind of thing, and then suddenly they were effectively conflict photographers. Certainly not what they'd signed up for.
And they were watching this kind of hellscape open up around them. And we felt it was very important to tell their story.
Then on Wednesday, what a treat, Joe Polyesey, without a doubt one of the biggest names in LA celebrity photography. When Bono, Tom Hanks, Jodie Foster, Barack Obama, insert any famous name here, come to town, who do they choose to make their portrait? None other than Joe Pug, as he humorously names himself online.
They're so good at playing. This comic actor it's like vaudeville. Like, they're going to be able to just give, and sometimes that's okay, and sometimes I'm trying to tone it down.
Joe is also the photographer who Oprah Winfrey calls upon to work with all her biggest guests, and of course that means a certain couple of late. And you wouldn't expect me not to ask a question about that shoot. Stories of life told by photographers. This week, 3 for you. And coming soon, a new weekend supplement show where I interview exciting portrait, wedding and commercial photographers all across the world as the photography industry prepares to reopen again, with of course some understandable exceptions. But with all that happening, I thought this was the time to start the new Photography Business Edition with all the production values you've come to expect, not just an interview show. Photography Daily is on all your favourite podcast apps, with extra content available through our Patreon shows too. Right, back to the questions. Kev, from the Facebook group.
This one's from Jeff Petrie, and he says, Kevin, you've mentioned, and Neil as well, you mentioned that you can't wait to be able to get back out and be able to visit the bookstores Curiously, how do you go about selecting your photography books? Do you only buy books of photographers that you're familiar with? What attracts you to a particular book? Or do you simply buy a book with images that you like? That's a good question. I've kind of levitated towards people that I would not really have come across unless I've seen another review or an article. Or the Martin Parr bookshop is amazing, because even if you don't buy the books from the Martin Parr bookshop, they are some amazing resources there for photographers I've never ever heard of, and then I can go and research and have a look at whether I'd like the books or not. So that kind of thing. But I think I said last week that I really like going to Hay on Wye, the bookstores there, and what I would do is find the dustiest, oldest bookstores and find their photography bits, and then just rummage, like a good rummage. And it doesn't have to be people I know. And I don't mind paying for something, as long as I've got the money, but I don't mind paying for something that I think is going to be an investment as well as be enjoyable. But today's book, for example, I would say that 90% of the people listening will never have heard of this photographer.
Really? Okay.
I might be totally wrong. No. But, yeah.
It seems like a good time to do a book, Kev.
It does.
Should we do one?
Yeah.
No, not a beer, a book.
Sorry, I was trying. I tried my best. Okay, right. So this week we do have Vinka Pettersson, and it's called No System. Now, backing onto that question we just had, the reason why I picked this book up was, again, because of Martin Parr. It wasn't on the bookstore, but it was something on the Martin Parr Facebook page. And he said, those of you who missed out on this book, first edition of it, which is in the 80s, she's now republishing it. So she republished it last year. And it's, according to the bio, Vinka Pettersson is a British photographer and artist based in
Ramsgate.
Correct.
Yeah.
Her photography book, No System, documents her life in the 1990s, traveling around Europe with sound systems, putting on free parties. There we go.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it's really, I bought it direct from her website.
Yeah.
And it's as it says, she was working with sound systems in the 90s and traveling all around Europe with, what can only be described as a rag and bone set of people, let's put it that way, all of which obviously had their own roles and were perfectly normal people. However, when you're in Eastern Europe and you're putting on parties that you shouldn't be, there's going to be quite a lot of things going on that perhaps shouldn't be going on. But wonderful pictures that are, and she took these, she had a little point and shoot film camera. I don't know what it is. But it's, simple things like there's a guy walking out of the, presumably the shower block, and he's got all his hair shaved and he's got, his trousers on, he's got toothbrush in one hand. Then I'm going through, there's lots of, let's just say cigarettes that perhaps are not just cigarettes.
They're like the sweetie ones, Kev. What do you mean?
Yeah, just like them. There's, and it's interspersed with letters and notes that she's written to her friends during her travels or has received. It's great. There's a picture of this guy. There's no page numbers. It's just a kind of picture. She's thrown a flash on it, and he's just stood there. He's got a piece of bread in one hand and his finger up his nose up in the other hand, and it's just real kind of warts and all. The thing about the reason why I like this so much is not so much I don't look at the pictures and think, these are creatively brilliant or anything like that, but they're true, honest documentary pictures. And even though she wasn't, a professional photographer, she's thought about the pictures in terms of, there's one here, they've obviously gone to get some food from the supermarket, and she's shooting out. She's sat in the front of the van. They've opened the back of the door. She's shooting out that way. You can see the light flare where the light has leaked onto the lens. This guy with a supermarket trolley, literally just ram-packed full of vodka and beer. Yeah, there's people. I mean, you can just imagine. It's hard to describe, as always with these books, but it's almost commune-like. There's people all youngsters. They're all involved in this this kind of community. There's a handful of kids running around. They've taken their kids. There's a picture here of 2 security guards looking over presumably this is somewhere in Eastern Europe in the 90s. They're in this filthy caravan, and then you've got these 2 security guards looking very ominously over at them. And it's just fun. It's just really fun. I would imagine that a lot of the people in this book are, feeling the effects now, later in life, perhaps. But there's a beautiful picture. The main spread actually is of all of the kind of brutalist pictures that are in there. There's a really lovely picture of them. A whole load of them stood on a rock in a stream, wide stream.
Yeah.
Some of them are cleaning, washing themselves. Some of them are cleaning their teeth and stuff. And you've got this girl at the front who seems to be meditating a little bit. But that's looks like such a wonderful place in a forest somewhere, magical. Yeah. You can really understand why they're all all together. It's a picture of a guy in a hammock covered in a net.
Foam, isn't it? Or is it a net?
A net, I would say, yeah, presumably because of the mosquitoes or midges or wherever it was in that part of the world. It's great. I mean, if you're into music, if you're into the music of the 90s, and you want to see some behind the scenes of the people that might have been involved in those raves and stuff, this is right up your alley. And the words, the letters and everything are great as well. I can't read them because there's quite a lot of them, but it's nice that she's kept these letters and she's including them in this scrapbook, if you like. There's one at the end which is a map of Lisbon, and the entire letter is written over the map. Just dear Mark and Connie. Yeah. Brilliant, wonderful stuff.
And the handwritten letters, which is lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great. I mean,
diary entries.
It reminds me a little bit of Ziza Cruz Bacani's book.
Yes,
We Are Like Air.
Does. Yes.
In that it's it's her story, her pictures, her eyes. She's observed all that stuff, and also her notes. And I love that. I love a book that feels like there's been a lot of thought rather than just the curation of the pictures, but a lot more to it than that. Good.
I wonder how many of us in our early, as we all sort of progress through our lives, 30, 40, 50, 60s, whatever, that you think, I wish, but, between the ages of, I don't know, randomly choosing 18 to, say, 25, had recorded that period as photographs, would now look back with our handwritten notes and they'd all be amazing documents of our lives, wouldn't they?
Absolutely. Good Lord. Yeah. I mean, I really wish that I'd thought about photography way before I did.
Yeah.
I've only really been doing it 15 years. And it would have been amazing. Absolutely.
Well, I kicked myself for all those years that I didn't record my broadcasting years. All that stuff that I'd done and seen and places I've been, and these sort of grungy clubs as well. A lot of places that I hung out, and the raves and stuff like that.
Just visions of you at a rave now.
Well, no, it wouldn't be rave. It would have been acid, wouldn't it? In my day, acid.
Oh my God!
I did go, Kev. Once upon a time, this grey bearded chap.
I never did anything like that. I was such a square.
Yeah, but when I was there, Kev, I was the square, really, because I can honestly say, hand on heart, I never took any drugs. I wasn't part of that scene. My vice, yes, alcohol, and I think on the club I did a week of club nights in Amsterdam, and when I came back through was it Heathrow? I think it was Heathrow. There's an interesting story which I must tell you about off air one day. I don't think that's a story for on air, but apart from that, really, no. I think everything went on around me, really. I would have been the perfect photographer because I was the most sober one.
Yeah.
All the time. But that sounds a great book. So Vinka Peterson.
Yeah, you can go straight to her website and you can get the second edition. I think you can still get the second. It's a reprint. It's not an update. It's a reprint. The first one is very rare. So if you can find the first one and you get hold of it and hold on to it, then I'm sure it will be a very good investment.
On the book front, by the way, Peter Foote wrote to us, not very happy actually, Kev. I think I'm going to stop listening to the FujiCast. It's costing me a fortune. I've just received my copy of 1234. If, like me, your interests include music and black and white photography, then this big book is a must for your collection. So he's turning from being really angry to actually advertising it.
Yeah, I mean, I said, didn't I? And that's a highly available book as well.
Yeah.
If you are into any of those things, get it. Well, get it anyway. Yeah. Just get it.
Spend. Graham B. Just wondered what you guys thought of the XA7. It seems like an underrated camera. Massive LCD screen and compact body. I understand you guys may prefer a viewfinder. In this case, have you tried the XT200? But at 399 quid, refurbished, it is a steal.
Yeah. Well, the XA7, I did have an XT100. I never got an XT, which I subsequently sold after using it for a bit. And then I didn't get an XT200. But yes, the XA range, as far as I understand it, doesn't sell very well in Western world. However, in Asia, it's huge. It's absolutely huge because it's built really for, selfies and, it's that kind of generation.
Yeah.
And they really marketed it very strongly to, like females and stuff. So the marketing message was, fits in handbags and, you can take it to clubs and do selfies and all that kind of stuff. But essentially combating mobile phones. That was the marketing message for it. And it worked, I think, in Asia, less so the rest of the world. So I think, if you look at the sale book of Fujifilm worldwide, the XA range is actually a very good, it's a good seller, and it is a good camera. Yeah, I mean, it's just another option, isn't it? It's it's a different sensor. It doesn't have the film simulations that some of the others have. Single card slots, general kind of things like that, really. But it's it is cheap and it is a nice camera, and you can get it in different colors.
Perfect. There we go. Job done. I've got one more shorty here, actually. And then your question. I think that's it for the week because we had quite a long interview and a long first half. Damien Carras. Good evening, gents. Love the FujiCast. Have a couple of questions. I decided to go mirrorless earlier this year and jumped from Canon to Sony. I got the A7 III with the 24-7T 2.8 GM, and that blew my photo budget. I should think it did. Then I started listening to you and my gas returned. With a vengeance. We don't like that gas, do we? Suppose I was to jump to Fuji, would you recommend the XT4 or the XT3? I've read that the 4 is just really a 3 with IBIS. Additionally, which zoom would you recommend? Thank you from Frank in Birmingham. That doesn't make sense. Damien Carras, but it's Frank. Okay, all right. 4 or 3? Is 4 really, is it just a lot of hype, Kev?
I think that just saying the XT4 is an XT3 with IBIS is a little bit disingenuous, but it's borderline truth also. It is the same sensor. However, the XT4 does have the newer battery. It has the better screen. Well, some people think it's better screen. And it does have IBIS and, that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, essentially you can get exactly the same pictures out of an XT3 that you could from an XT4. But the XT4 is a better camera. Simple as that, really.
I had to think very carefully because I recently have looked at my video shooting and I went for XH1s above and sort of swapping around and doing a bit of jiggery pokery and going for XT4s. And I know some people would say, "What, Neil? You're mad. What?" But I've always had as you well know, this thing about the XH shape and the grip and everything about it.
Well, maybe you'll get over that at some point.
You're so rude. Right, last question of the show. And do you want to draw one out of the Facebook?
Yeah, I will. I'm looking for a quick one as we get into the end of the day. And I will go for Leslie Burdett. She says, do you send off your camera bodies for cleaning using Fujifilm's FPS service, for example, or others? Or do you clean your own sensors? Also, which do you prefer, sunrise or sunsets?
I prefer sunrise.
Yeah, me too.
Never sent my cameras off, no. I actually clean my own sensors quite happily as well.
I don't think I've ever cleaned a sensor. I've never cleaned...
What?
Never, ever, not once.
The amount of times
I didn't even know it was a thing really until a few years ago.
Shut the front door. No, of course you did.
No, I didn't know you could. I knew you could have them.
Here we are. Got all my sensor cleaners. Loads there. Look, ready to clean my sensors.
Yeah, but mirrorless, I didn't think it. I knew it was a thing when I had my old Canon system. I used to send those off every year. I'd send them off to what they call Canon Professional Services in Elstree.
Yes.
I'd send them all off.
Yeah.
I'd stick 15 grand's worth of cameras in a box and watch the postman walk down the street with it all.
What? I used to take mine.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, you should have kept your boxes. You could have just sent them off in the post.
I did keep my boxes. No, but I wasn't so sure about them being collected, so I used to make a little day out and go over.
Well, yeah, maybe. But anyway, I did used to do it then. But no, and honestly, in the last 12 years, I've never, ever even thought about having my sensors cleaned.
No.
But I do shoot mostly at narrow apertures. So wide apertures, I should say. So f2.8, f1.2. If you're in f16, then you're probably going to see it a little bit more.
If you're in F16 land with Kev, it's going to look like a snowstorm.
Yeah. So Leslie, I don't send them off, but perhaps you should.
And it's sunrise for us both, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's it for this week. Thank you for your emails and your and the questions that you pose on the Facebook group. You got enough in the Facebook group at the moment, Kev?
Yeah, we got a good set, but keep them coming.
Yeah. Could do with a few more emails. Click at FujiCast.co.uk. Click at FujiCast.co.uk. See you in the Facebook group for any questions. A shout out for our mods, Steve and Peter, because they don't get enough credit really for the work that they do. So hello Steve, hello Peter. Send your questions in. Thank you to those that are supporting us on Patreon. Music is on Blue Wednesday. We're supporting music from the incredible artlist.io. Our thanks to the man that has possibly, I think, one of the best lives in the world that certainly that you've spoken to of late, Matt Polyesey. I mean, he was on that island. Is a sort of lesser known Maldivian island, isn't it?
Yeah.
Have you ever been to the Maldives?
No.
Oh, it's without wanting to say. Have you ever been to Australia? It's wonderful, Kev. It's everything that they say that an island in the Maldives. It's just like it is a tropical paradise, and it's terrible that it won't be that long before many of those islands are no longer. They're washed over. They're gone.
Yeah, I know.
With the rising tides, which is why Matt's out there, and that's the sort of thing that he's working on making people aware of, isn't he?
Yeah.
So thank you to Matt. If you want to see our offerings to the photo community, visit fujicast.co.uk. Go see the show notes, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The FujiCast is an independent loading zone production. Email the show with your questions and words of wisdom to click@fujicast.co.uk. Email any complaints and political nonsense to our wives, who will deal with your comments in their own good time and in their own good way.